I am so excited to be welcoming in my good friend. My name is Dr. Sandra Colton-Medici, and this is Maiko Sakai. She is the founder of Airtight Concepts, and we are going to be giving you the goods today. She's going to be talking about overcoming the 3 biggest myths about niching down in your business. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday to everybody who is tuning in or is watching on the replay. We definitely want to hear from you. Put in hashtag replay if you are watching this a little bit later. But I do want to make sure that you get a proper introduction. You have been with College of Style on a previous event. She was our keynote speaker for our Template Design Summit, and it was fantastic. And so I'm so excited to have you back to give us the really good insight as to, I know a lot of people really don't want to niche down. They just, they feel like if they're in their business, they want to accommodate or service everybody's needs. But what is the biggest thing that you kind of see coming at you with, people that you've worked with, clients, and their perspective on niching down?
Yeah, no, totally. Well, it's really funny. A lot of business owners do understand the importance of it. So, like they know that they wanted to streamline their businesses. They know that they need to simplify their businesses in order to scale. Like they get that part in the head, but there are a lot of stories that we all have, that kind of keep us from doing that. So I'm really excited to talk about what those things are today. So a lot of times, some of my clients would come to me, like they understand the logic, yet, they would say, I'm totally down, but, I have this thing that I don't want to let go of. And, I wanted to be able to help everyone, who is considering to simplify and niche down in their businesses, just so that they would have a single focus in their business to keep generating revenues. So I'm ready to get started.
Well, so what exactly is the number one? I'm going to use, we said we were going to talk about 3 big myths. So what is the first one?
Well, actually, before we get to that, though, I do want to sort of define what niching down means and what niche is in my own way, in a sense. So I know that a lot of people use that term, and I don't know about you, but oftentimes they're using it wrong. So for example, they would say something like, oh, I'm in the fitness niche, or I'm in the beauty niche. Those are not niches. Those are not even industries. Those are sectors, like billions of trillions of dollars sectors. And niche, the real definition of a niche is something tiny, right? Just the niche in the corner or whatever. That's where it came from. So it needs to be specific and small. So if you are saying something like, I'm in the, nutrition niche, then you do have to rethink that. So I do want to, I wanted to start from there and make sure that we're on the same page, so that, I don't want to hear people using that term in like other ways. The niche means it's highly specified specialty that delivers transformation. The last bit is also very important.
Exactly. Well, so when people are, let's just use that as an example. So if somebody thinks they're in a nutrition niche, right? Or let's go with something even broader. Like, let's say I'm in the physical fitness niche, right? Because a lot of people are. How do you help them bring that into more of a focus?
Right. So, just by talking about fitness itself, as you all know, there are many different types. There are yoga instructors, right? And there are like boot camp instructors. And, some of them may offer something that's more half and half, where, the real workout, the plans, as well as food, as well as mindset. There are many ways to go about it. And my first suggestion, if there's someone who's in that industry and really wanted to hone in on a specific area, I recommend that person to look into what's been a trend in his or her business. Who do you love to work with? Who is appreciating you the most? And from there, I'm sure they will find some kind of a trend, whether, oh, I didn't even think about this, but I have been helping, say, women above 45 for whatever reason. Age is not the deciding point, but I'm using it as an example. Or let's just get out of like regular demographics, right? Another example is that, come to think of this, I've been helping high power male executives who travel a lot. Well, now it's a different story, but you know what I mean? That don't have time to plan, their meals, or don't have time to think about it, don't have time to work out. There's a common thread there, and that could be your niche to say, I only work with executives, for example, and that could be female executives who are completely burned out, have like small children potentially, and a really demanding job. Now we're talking about more of a focused area within this humongous industry.
Right. And I think a lot of people think that they're going to, if they niche down, right, and they get really specific, that their pool will somehow be so small. And I have found that, when you are looking at different industries, and like you can do this really quickly on LinkedIn, let's say.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody who's watching on LinkedIn. But if you are on LinkedIn, you can do a search and say, I want to search for, let's say, fashion bloggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can niche it down a little bit, right? You can focus your
Right.
search to say, I want third connections or second connections, and then I want them all in the United States, or I want them all in California, or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
And what I have done, I've done that before when I was, working to promote our style symposium. I was focused in on promoting it to people who would be interested in it. And there's like millions of people with those specifics, right? So if you are worried about losing the pool of people you could target, that's just not the case in many industries.
So far from the truth, and that is actually this is the best segue ever. I mean, that's one of the three myths that I wanted to cover. And that's the biggest one, of course. Everybody's worried about missing out on potential opportunities. And then I totally get that. We all have those, that kind of a concern where if I narrow my specialty down, then I'm going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. And I'm capable of many things. I'm multifaceted. I'm multi-passionate. I get to say yes to all of those things. Why should I shy away from it? And that is a valid point. But just as you said, Sandra, there are plenty of people in that tiny niche. The kind of like a sub question from that I get often is that, what if I narrow it down too much? That's another question that I get often. And here is my honest answer to it. Instead of sitting around wondering about it, why don't you give it a try? Because nobody knows.
Exactly.
That's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of like Amazon, right? They're sitting in their garage. I'm going to sell books online. Like, if that had never happened, if never once they had tried to, go after it, then look at where we would be. We would not have this whole, mass, industry of online e-commerce. I think it has spurred so many different e-commerce businesses out there. So it's almost like dip your feet in, and try it before discounting, right?
Right, exactly. So, and that's huge. And I'm glad that you pointed out Amazon, it's a giant, right? It's the biggest retailer or e-commerce company out there, but it did start out just selling books. And logistically, it kind of made sense only because, there are plenty of books out there, number one. And the books were, easy to store in warehouses. And so logistically speaking, it was a great starting point. But I'm sure, he had a bigger vision from the get-go that, that it's not going to end there, but that's okay. Test it out and see how it goes. It turned out to be this like becoming this giant, but it may have taken different route. I mean, we don't know. That's the whole thing about entrepreneurship. And, not to sidetrack too much, but if you're afraid of making mistakes, you're going to have to work on that mindset first before you do anything else, only because running a business is all about really testing and experimenting and just to be okay with some of the outcomes may not be so ideal. You just keep going, you move on with it instead of dwelling on, oh, that was the biggest failure in my life. I mean, no, you have no time for that. You got to move on to the next one.
Move on to the next failure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Make bigger and bigger mistakes because you learn from them too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've been doing the same with my business with College of Style. I have been learning as I go. And what a lot of people haven't even recognized in that we've been putting a lot of events together is we don't actually have a full built out website, and a lot of people are like, You don't? And I'm like, no, did you not notice that we don't even have an about page? Right. And so that's one of the things that I think a lot of people, when they start their businesses, they think they have to have it all done. Right.
Oh, gosh. Right. That's like the biggest mistake ever. Right. Yeah. Biggest mistake ever. Like printing business cards and hiring a branding consultant. There's nothing wrong with branding consultants, by the way. Yeah. There's always a place for that. So please do not misunderstand. I'm not saying that, they're not needed. I'm just saying that in the beginning, you don't need any of that.
Nope.
It could be a one-pager website.
Yeah.
Contact.
I mean, we do have a website, but generally speaking, it's promoting whatever it is, what event that we're having that particular
Makes sense to me.
So, so for me, I'm like, you know what? If you think that you have to have it all done, that's one of my big myths that I'm going to dispel today, right?
Oh, totally.
Don't think that you have to have it all done or that you have to have every social media profile out there.
Oh, God, no.
Up and running and, and buzzing with, all of this content, because whatever you can do is what you can do. Right. And I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves, especially to know what people want, to be able to provide it to them. And just like we're talking about these niching down myths, it's kind of like, if you don't know, test, right? And that's exactly what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, just to put another layer on top of what you just said is this, where like, let's get one thing right first. So, when you talk about social media, it's the same thing. Like, let's find the one that you feel like enjoyable, like doing it, so that you're not forced to do this, whether that would be LinkedIn or Pinterest or Twitter or IG, whatever that might be. Get it right so that you know how to communicate with them clearly. Then you can talk about repurposing some content over other platforms and all that stuff later. Let's just bring in some revenues. And actually niching down can help people do that so that they're not, completely decision fatigued by doing all sorts of things all day long, all night long. You're cranking a blog, you're doing, podcast, and now you need to get into YouTube. You feel the pressure. Like, that's not the way to go about it at all.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that there's a lot of times where when we are doing too much, we are not doing one thing 100% either. Right.
Yep.
So we are
so
scattered and so fragmented that people don't see the best of you, from what you can do at all. They're just seeing the 20% that's, or maybe that week you did 100% on Twitter, right? And
Right.
then
That's
the
it.
next week you did it on Instagram or whatever. So it's all about consistency, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because ultimately speaking, running a business is a simple activity, meaning it's exchanging values. That's it. So if you're not really serving who you're supposed to be serving 100%, then that would be the cause to miss out on opportunities.
Yeah, I think that people are a little stuck sometimes in figuring out who they're supposed to be serving because they're so used to doing what they love for themselves,
Right.
that everything is, well, I'm going to write what I would like to read. Or I'm going to put out this product that I would like to buy. And then they don't realize that the people who are buying it look nothing like them, don't do anything. They don't go to the stores they go to, and they forget that whole market research aspect of things where it
Yeah,
says, okay,
totally.
well, you can put out something, but then look at the data that says that you wanted to get 24 to 44 women, right, in that age demographic, but you're really getting 65 to 85, right? So
Right.
flip the script, right? And a lot of
Yeah,
people,
exactly.
they don't want to do that. They just are like, no, I'm set. This is who I want to target, and they don't adjust, right? They
Right.
don't tweak as they go.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, you're not serving yourself to run your business, right? So if it turns out, just as you said, the demographic is completely different, that you're actually helping somebody over, say, 65 with beauty to stay, looking young, then maybe that's your superpower. Then there's nothing wrong with that. It's not easy to communicate with, or I should say it's different from communicating with, millennials to boomers. And if you have this natural innate talent to communicate with a certain age group or certain, group of people with the same issues or challenges that they're facing, then why wouldn't you leverage it? Like it blows my mind. But some people are very fixed about how they want to present themselves. I get that bit, but that's your ego. And nobody cares about that at the end of the day. So yeah, no, that's really important. But you see that a lot of those beliefs, the thoughts and the mindset that come into play, and actually sometimes they can hurt your business.
Right, right. Well, so we talked about the pool being one of the myths that, if you niche down, you might lose people, but really that's typically not the case. So
Yep.
what's another one that we should be aware of as far as niching down, that might, I don't know, might I feel like the word is like might stall a business because, you're
Yeah.
you're like, oh, but I can't. Like what is another one that you have thought of?
Right. The second the biggest concern is for them to be known for just the one thing.
Hmm.
It's like, I guess the word is pigeonholed, right? You don't want to be known for just the one thing. Funny how we think about ourselves, right? So my response to that statement would be, well, why don't you try, becoming known for one thing first, and you will know how
Hmm.
hard it is to do that. Then you worry about all other things. But if you, and I love using this example when I'm talking about this. Like, I'm going to mention some names, and you give me one word description. And there's no right or wrong about this. But let's just say, okay, let's start with Brené Brown.
Uh, you know what? I remember she has a whole bunch of,
TikTok. Yeah.
right. Go ahead.
She's known for vulnerability. So
Hmm.
her name and the vulnerability side
Hmm.
by side, that's
Yeah.
one thing, right? That
Hmm.
doesn't mean that she only talks about vulnerability
Hmm.
at all. Her books have been evolving to cover a wider range of things. But when somebody says, oh, I love Brené Brown, the first word that comes to my mind is vulnerability,
Yeah.
being vulnerable,
Yeah.
for better relationship and better connections and all those things. Another one is Simon Sinek.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about why.
Right.
Simon Sinek, why? There's nothing wrong with that. And they're making a lot of money for
Mm-hmm.
being known for one thing.
Right.
Again, that doesn't mean that's the only thing they do. So do you see what's happening here?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that being known for one thing shouldn't limit you from doing other things. But in order for you to widen your reach and attract more customers and clients, potential clients, you need to keep it simple. So you do want to be known for one thing. And once you start to develop, working relationship with them, they're the one who will start asking you, I know you don't do this,
Mm-hmm.
but just for me, would you do this for me? They will start saying this. You don't need to worry about it. But
Yeah.
human minds, right? We worry about a lot of things. What if I'm only known for one thing and I can't get out of it? And in one of my blog posts, which is exactly like a 9 myth debunked, I
Mm-hmm.
use this analogy of you're not a child actor. That's what I say. You're not a child actor. Like you're having a child actor syndrome. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm only known for that one show when I was 6 years old, and I'm never gonna get out of it. I don't get a new role, in the big box, movies, and it's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
problem. No, it's a separate issue. You're not a child actor.
Well, and speaking of, I was just Googling it because you reminded me of someone that I see everywhere now. Not no, well, I should say, who was known as a child star before. I was writing it as you were saying. If you're not a child star, Drew Barrymore, who was known for what, like
Star Wars, right? Oh
no,
wait, E.T.
for
Sorry.
long, right, same era, right?
E.T. Right.
ET for a long time, but now she has something called Flower Beauty, right? She's totally different. She had a production company too, that where she went into, directing and producing and all of that. So she went from child star, mega star,
Right.
producer, director. She was, I think she was taking on projects for a lot of women directors, and now she's got all this beauty line product, that has nothing to do with what she was known for, right?
Right.
Her child star actor status. So it is possible, even as a child star, to have that transition,
There you go.
to be known for something else. But she
Right.
solidified herself, like you said, being known for being good as an actress, right?
Yeah.
And being able to portray characters and that aren't like her. But it's very interesting to see a lot of people do that pigeonhole talk of, I don't want to be known for one thing, especially if they are a creative. I think a lot of times
Right.
creatives, oh, I love to paint, and I love to DJ, and I love to, sightsee and buy vintage clothes, and, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they're
Yeah.
like, but I don't want to be known for my watercolor paints or whatever. And I think that it reminds me also of like a J-Lo, right? She was known for being a dancer, and
Yeah.
clearly now she's got a whole lot of stuff going on.
Oh, everything to do with her. And I think what's fascinating about this is that positioning really well. Anything you want to do, the people will follow. That their audience would love to take a part in, Drew Barrymore's journey or J-Lo's journey. So if J-Lo comes up with a whole, line of a kitchenware, nobody's going to question it. And I used to say, if Gary Vaynerchuk comes up with, a bar of soap, people will buy it because it's Gary.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, it's similar to like a Kim Kardashian following, who
That's right.
has known her for, being a celebrity, and
Yeah.
now has expressed her interest in pursuing law, right? Her followers are following that journey, right?
They're fine.
and they're okay with it, right? And
Totally.
and so for me, I look at it like that is a huge myth that you're throwing out there of being pigeonholed is not the right, mindset for it. It definitely
Right.
is an expertise that you have that you can elevate, right? And you have a unique perspective on it because it's all your own. So I think that that is a really good one to try to overcome if you are challenged by this in your business because you are either multi-passionate or you just don't want to let go of all of those other things. It's not about the letting go, it's about the laser focus to
Yeah.
become an authority in one and then parlay it into the rest, right?
Yep. And it's easier for people to remember what you do. If you are to be explaining everything that you do, they get into decision fatigue. And not only that, you're going to have to cater to all those different needs and you're going to get stretched out and burned out. How do you plan to scale that? Then, well, at in the end, you're scaling a huge mess. And even though like you get to employ more people, you get to have a team or whatever, they're not going to be happy working for you because of the fact that it's all over the place. So it's not going to serve you in any way possible. So yes, that's the niche myth number 2.
Yeah, I think that that is a big one for sure, is trying to figure out what you're about, and being okay with that. Being able to
Right.
like sit with that, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's so many people, like when you look at someone like Oprah, right? She's done so
Yeah.
much, but you know her as someone who can just talk to you, right? Like to me, she's the
Yeah.
person who you can have a conversation with. And she's a storyteller, right? So it's not
Mm-hmm.
really about, hey, she has her own network or she's an actress or she's a producer. She tells stories, right? And so
Yeah.
if you can boil it down to what do you do and be able to just say, well, I tell stories that people want to hear, then that's good enough. And I think a lot of people try to overcomplicate what they
Yeah.
do, because it needs to sound fancy or it needs to sound really, like in like an upper echelon, but really it has to be down to earth and grounded in something that people can understand readily in the elevator, that you don't have to spend a lot of time explaining, right?
It's so counterintuitive because that's what most of the people would think when they're starting out, that when we talked about the website, I have to have this, I have to have that, I need to be able to offer this, I need to be able to say I can do this to sort of boost their credibilities in a sense. That's not what people are needing. What people are needing is the kind of like a clear message in terms of what you do and how you help. Then their brains get to work with, whether or not they're needing that service, but that you're making their decision making a lot easier. And in that sense, they would appreciate that much, much more. And that would be the perfect, actually, the segue to the number 3 myth, which is when you feel like you are in control of your specific niche, that can be profitable. So the last bit is the tricky part. It's not just about niching down your specialty and be done with it. Okay, I'm done. Not really. You need to make sure that there is demand for that. So you have to look at from both sides, meaning what you want to be doing that would bring joy to your life. And you are actually really super good at it. That's really important. But then you also have to look at the market. You mentioned the market research. It's the same thing. How would you slice that big chunk of industry that you're in? You can do it in many different ways, right? I'm not a big fan of just using demographics. I will really like everyone to use psychographics. How are they feeling? What are their fears? What are their desires? Those things don't really fit into this traditional demographic descriptions. It's not about the income level. It's not just about the genders. Like, for example, like homesteading. If you really wanted to be off the grid and grow your own food and can your food or whatever, there might be 21-year-old male who might be interested in the same thing as much as 53-year-old widowed women. They just have the common interest, and that pretty much discounts the whole demographic notion of things. I think a lot of marketers pay too much attention to demographics, and I get where that's coming from, but most importantly, you really wanted to understand what they're going through. So, your expertise and the market needs to merge in the middle, and that middle part is that very special, sweet spot. But the number 3 actually is a little bit unexpected one. I get this question. Yeah, I get this question where like, well, I consider myself to be a little bit more of a generalist. Now, can I niche down? Because I need to work on the full cycle, life cycle of XYZ, whether that is the medical device industry related things or the digital marketing side of things. I'm a generalist, and I do very well understanding bigger picture to help businesses, for example. That can still work. Just because you're a generalist doesn't mean that you can't niche down. That's a myth. And not many people talk about this. So I wanted to bring that up as the last one, only because, it's not widely known for it. So if you consider yourself to be a generalist, you talk about anything to do with design, for example, then the market has to be niched down a little bit more. So let's just say you're like a full cycle, the digital marketer, and it knows everything about digital marketing, not tying down with, I only do Pinterest or I only do Facebook ads. Then you might want to explore, the niche markets that are really needing your help. So for example, that could be the helping a bunch of law firms, for example. It's a very unlikely clients, but their job is not to worry about digital marketing. Their job is to, practice law. So they're not really good at doing marketing side of things. Maybe you being a generalist can really help them map out their marketing plan. Potentially, you might be the one to be hiring specialists, for example, like a Facebook, ad specialist, if necessary, right? But you take the position of being a generalist, but to the highly targeted market, the niche market. So you can still pull that off. Just because you're a generalist, it doesn't mean that you can't niche down in your business.
Yeah, that's a good one. I know that someone who's a friend of mine who was actually in our Facebook group for College of Style had mentioned they're in real estate, and it's to them, social media is foreign in selling homes, because that's really about the relationships that they have with people along the way who they know can afford to buy a house, who aren't just liking a picture on social media just because it's pretty, right?
Totally.
Or inquiring just because they, and they live somewhere completely different, never going to move to where this house is, and so they're struggling with trying to figure out like how to use social media for real estate, and needing someone to do that for them, because they don't have that kind of time to be doing things on, with digital marketing. They're busy forming relationships and, making contracts and, getting all of those legalese that have to do with home inspections and things like that. But it reminds me of that, because there's a lot of industries that typically are pretty secret, right? If a home goes on the market, they don't want to blast it all over social media to say, this $1 million home is now available, because it's private, right? So it's kind of that weird line that people walk, especially with that industry of, if I'm a generalist in selling homes, or maybe I've niched down and I only sell $1 million homes, right? How do I then promote that when it's really just a secret transaction, right? I totally get where you're coming from, because she brought that up as this weird line that she has to walk of being able to promote her business, but really not promote her business. You know?
Right. But what she could potentially do is that if she masters, or may have to hire someone, but if she masters this secret code or language that is used in selling luxury homes.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, she can still run a campaign over social media just to say invitation only,
Right.
for example, you know, and
Right.
that's not used for like, you know, no $1 million, say like a condo or, you know, or small homes or something, you know, the small homes, you would have put this whole sign up, you know, in the yard and open house and all that stuff. And you wanted to do the opposite so that you would go to, you know, you would go with the route of, secrecy campaign or like secret promotions and all
Right.
those things. And if you're really good at it, that doesn't become a niche backed by understanding this general scope of the business.
Right.
You can still niche down in that way. So, you know, the whole point is that don't, you know, don't tie yourself up with these beliefs and made up stories about how you can't niche down. Instead, really look at where those thoughts are coming from. What are you concerned about? What are you afraid of? Then discount that one by one so that you really get to see what your specialty is and you get to double down on it.
Right. Exactly. I mean, all of it is food for thought if you just want to take the weekend and rewatch
Right.
this, because it's really important to know where you stand. Excuse me, frog in my throat. Where you stand, whom you serve, right? And
Yep.
how you can best position yourself. And I think the positioning is the most important, because a lot of times people do great things, right? And they just
Sure.
are not in the right framework, right? They haven't really found the sweet spot, like you said earlier,
Yep.
in knowing what their market is and how to best serve them, right?
Yep. And honestly, that's not like a set it, forget it kind of thing, or that's not really an overnight thing.
Right.
Meaning that it takes some time to really formulate it, test it, validate it. But that's the part that it's worth investing your time and energy in.
Mm-hmm.
But normally when I, you know, casually speak to just business owners, they're not necessarily all, you know, they're my clients or anything. Like when I have a casual conversations with business owners, their questions are usually the wrong set of questions. Like, for example, maybe I should hire more salespeople, or maybe I should do more social media. I'm like, no, 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 no. None of those things are really important, nor what you need right now. What you need is for you to really understand who you're speaking to and how you would explain their situations, the pain that they're in depth.
Mm-hmm.
But no one really wants to spend, you know, time and energy trying to figure that out, because it's not easy. Like, I totally get that. It's not easy, but it's worth every bit of your energy and time being spent if you really work on it to figure it out. Because once you do, everything else will come, like it will come really easily. So all the questions you had, you know, I don't know what my brand color is, or, you know, I don't even have a style guide, and, you know, like I probably need to hire more people to really get the word out. None of those things you ever need to worry, because now you know what your focus is, and everything else, those questions will be answered just automatically. And that's the magic. That's
Well,
the
I just
magic.
wanted to put this on the screen. Sherry says hi, greetings from Beverly Hills. So, hey, Sherry.
Woohoo!
I know that we are so lucky to have you with us, and anyone who is watching either live or on the replay, we definitely are so happy that you're here. And we want everyone to know that these are myths. We have blown them away. Maiko has given us the ammunition to say, poof, be gone, with
right.
all of these three myths. And there are so many other ones that you are handily, debunking all the time. And I just wanted to pass it over to you because I know you have a workshop coming up. Is that
That's
right?
right.
So
Yeah,
tell everybody what you're doing because I know that you have so much more that you are giving away.
absolutely. So I'm hosting this 1 hour training. Well, I almost wanted to say next Thursday, which means September 16th, because I don't know when, some people are watching this, but on September 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern time, I'm hosting 1 hour free training. It's entitled Build a Multi Six-Figure Business with Just One Niche. So I'm going to talk about, creating a roadmap and what needs to happen and what can get in the way, and also how your business model would look like if you are to incorporate this. And it's going to look completely different, and you're going to feel a lot better after this session. So the Q4 is going to look a lot different, and that's the goal pretty much. And again, it's free and plenty of time as of now to sign up. So yeah, I would love to see all of you there. Oh,
Sorry, you can't hear me.
I couldn't for a hot second. I'm like,
I
what
know.
happened?
That's okay. I
Yeah.
muted myself while you were talking because I
Oh,
didn't
that's
want to
okay.
interrupt. What are some of the things that people will learn when they attend this training? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to cover 5 must-have ingredients in order for you to execute this strategy. And also, how does this work? Meaning, what is the journey looks like if you are to niche down and really double down on your niche and build up this multi six-figure business. So what's needed? How does it look like? And how does it feel like? So that the people wouldn't just wonder about what it could be. Oh, there's just too much like earth uncertainties, and I don't know where I'm taking my business with, and I don't want to take a huge risk doing this. I will explain all that back end and how this works out, and I will take a lot of Q&As possibly. So it's going to be a jam-packed 1 hour. So at the end of the session, though, you can walk away with a clear plan and what you need to work on next. I'm not promising that you're going to find your profitable niche by the end of the session. That's impossible. And I would be an imposter to be promising this. So it's not going to happen. But at least you will know what you need to focus on. So no more, like all that like clouds above your head, not really understanding what you have to do next. You're going to have a clear plan.
That's really awesome. And it's a free training. I just put it down there. If you look down here, you can see how to actually sign up for her training. It's on September 16th. If you have not watched this before September 16th and you're watching some sort of replay afterward, if you look down there, this way down there on her on her nameplate there, you can see her website is maikosakai.com. And
Yep.
so if you miss the training because it's after the 16th when you watch this, make sure to visit her website because she has a lot going on and definitely future plans for different workshops. And if you want to work with her one-on-one, I'm sure she would be grateful to see your email come in. But I love, love, love. I'm going to show it again. I love that you're putting on this training because it's all about constant learning for even business owners who think they've got it, right? Who think that they just know what they're doing and it's old hat. I've been there, done that. I always feel like more training is always going to help you evolve in your business and in your life. And it's never going to hurt you. It might reinforce what you already know, but
Right.
it's never going to hurt to have another perspective and another voice to say, maybe you should try this, or have you ever thought of this, to build your business even more than where it's at right now. So
yeah, 100%. And there's something that I'm going to share, which is a typical journey of entrepreneurship when it comes to service businesses. So I'm not going to talk about e-commerce or goods related businesses. It's mainly for service business owners. But there's a typical journey that got completely mapped out, and you don't really have to worry about what's going to happen if I hit this revenue point or that revenue point. Like, I can just tell you exactly what to expect and what you need to do, which has not, like, to be 100% honest, like, I haven't seen anything like that anywhere else.
yeah.
And I have that information based on my real practice with clients, and I've seen them go through all of it and figured out that, okay, so in general, this is what is going to happen. So you get to work on this before it happens. So you're investing in your future so that when that actually happens, it's like nothing for you. You know, you sit back and, yeah, no, I expected it and I know what I need to do. That's where I need you to be at. You know, whoever's watching this, that's where I want you to be at. So when things happen in the future, you're not trying to catch up. You're already there waiting for those things to happen so that you're ready.
Exactly. Stay ready. Don't have to get ready.
That's
That's
right.
definitely right. Well, so I know that we went over a lot. If you missed some of what we've covered today, make sure to scroll back and rewatch the beginning of this, because Maiko has laid out a great amount of information for you to just take with you, digest, and implement some of these myth busting ideas so that you're better positioned in your business to get it moving forward in a more streamlined and focused fashion. And then also sign up down below. You can see crowdcast.io/Maiko Sakai biz with a Z, so that you can attend her free training on September 16th. And make sure to visit her website, and that is at maikosakai.com. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It was a pleasure, and I can do this for hours more, but I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you. And if you missed our template design summit, she was also our keynote speaker. And if you send me a DM, I might just send you a copy of that. It is no longer available inside of our Facebook group, but if you join, I should say, in the template design summit Facebook group, because that was a very short-lived pop-up, but it is available inside of our College of Style Facebook group. If you have not joined us, take a moment, try to join on Monday. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but this is how you will find all of our social media on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, and at our website, collegeofstyle.com. Thank you so much, Maiko, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye, guys.